Welcome to another community conversation. I'm Michael Witch for LMC Media, and sharing the screen with me today is Nancy Goodman. Nancy, welcome.
Thank you.
You have a unique website, and it's called collegemoneymatters.org. And I think it's something that every parent of a student in the school districts, whether it's Mamaroneck or Rhinebeck or wherever, needs to know about. Exactly what is the website and what do you offer?
Okay. Sometime around 2018, I took early retirement from a career at Citibank, and I mentored a few local young people who were trying to make decisions about going to college. One of them, who was a Mamaroneck High School student, was going to, she was just about to decide to attend Sacred Heart University in Connecticut. And in order to complete 4 years there, she was going to have to borrow $139,000. And so I sat down with her and I just did the math. Look, if you borrow this much, you want to be a financial analyst, they make this much. Here's your taxes, here's your health care. And at the end of the computation, there was nothing left. And she said, but, and we didn't even put in food or entertainment or anything. And she said, well, but this is the only place I got in. So I sort of have to go.
Yeah.
And then a second student wanted to be a modern dancer. And she had her heart set on the Philadelphia College of the Arts, which is extraordinarily expensive and a very, very good school. And her only alternative was Montclair State, which is a New Jersey state school. And she and her father were almost not on speaking terms about how much this was going to cost and how much she was going to have to borrow. So father asked me to talk to her, and I sat down with her and I did the same thing. If you go to Montclair, this is how much you'll have to borrow. This will be your monthly payment when you come out. Here's what modern dancers make, etc. And she chose Montclair. So the penny dropped for me, which was to say, okay, high school kids are smart enough to make good decisions if they have the right information. But if I keep doing this the way I'm doing it, maybe I'll help 2 people a year. And if I form a nonprofit and I create something on the internet that's in the style that high school kids want to, use, like videos and interactive things and quizzes, then maybe I could reach hundreds of people or even thousands of people. So we did a lot of research with Mamaroneck High School, New Rochelle High School, a high school in Harlem, to test some of the approaches and figure out what they want. And then we designed this website and tested it again, redesigned it, launched it in September. And since September, we've had 16,000 people visit the site.
I mean, many schools now have financial aid advisors, but those advisors are, one person or 2 people for thousands of students. So your website is something that can be accessed anytime, not just during school hours. And what kind of information do you have on that site? I mean, what are your main topics?
So the main topics are, first, choosing a school, because like in the example I just gave, getting an affordable college really starts right at the application process. If you didn't apply to one in the first place, you don't have any choices at the end. So it's how do you select a college? What statistics do you look at, like graduation rates, that really matter? The second one is, what does it cost? Because you know how in an airline, someone could be sitting next to you and paying a completely different price for their seat? Well,
yes.
In colleges, it's very individual. What you pay and what the other guy pays to go to Cornell can be very different. And so we have a wonderful little video on some of the costs you need to think about. And then we have a worksheet where people can put in what are their costs. So for example, if you have to fly to school, you have to take into account that you're gonna, and not just, you're not just gonna fly there in the fall and come home in the spring. You've got Thanksgiving, you've got Christmas, you've got winter break. It's a lot of flights.
Yes.
So people need to understand the cost. The third thing is, what is financial aid? So most people think financial aid is grants and scholarships that the government or your college gives you, but actually financial aid includes loans. And on the packages that people get from colleges, a lot of times they try to disguise the fact that part of this financial aid grant is actually a loan. So they call it a million different things. And so it's really important to understand what is financial aid and make sure you understand it includes loans, so you don't actually borrow on top of borrowing. Then there's a whole section on loans, because student loans are an entirely different thing than, well, first of all, no 18-year-old has had any experience with any kind of loan whatsoever, right? So, and student loans are a whole world into and on them among themselves, including the fact that they're government loans, which have one set of criteria and are relatively low interest. And then they're loans from private lenders that have a whole different set of criteria and are higher interest rate. And then the last section is on scholarships and grants. It's important to know where to be successful looking for grants, because otherwise you can waste a huge amount of time. And unfortunately, there are scams out there at various levels of scamming, where maybe people have a scholarship and you just enter your name and email address and it's a lottery.
Yeah.
And people say, well, why not? Well, because then they sell your name and email address. Sure, and sure. You know, that's how they make money. So the scholarships have like 5 good places to look and how to make a very specific search so you can be successful, and then where to watch out for scams. And just let me say one more thing. And each of these sections has something I call best of the web, which is my selected places that I think give the best information.
So you said your organization is a nonprofit. So how do you support it?
Donors. Right now, a lot of friends and family donors. We recently got a very nice grant from the MoCA Foundation to write content on co-signing and Parent Plus loans. So it's been mostly friends and family, and they really believe in the cause. It's been great.
Well, this sounds like wonderful work. What do you hope will be the result of all your efforts?
Okay, so here's my big dream. About 200,000 high school kids have to borrow to go to college in the United States. I would love to have 200,000 kids come to the site and at least get some insight so that they don't borrow more than they should. You know, you want my dream? That's my dream.
Good. And are there times when it's best for parents and students to start looking through your website, or is there no time? Now is the time?
You know, any time is good. In the fall, it's good for seniors to look at selecting a college, but it's also a good time right now for juniors on college visits to look at selecting a college, and questions you should ask on your college tours. And then how to fill out FAFSA. I don't really talk about that on my site because it's so well done other places, but I give the locations where people can go and get good information on the details. And of course, FAFSA is going to entirely change next year. So even people who know are going to have to learn the new system. So it's an all year round thing, although I would say this time of year, January, February is kind of a dead time. What's going on right now is seniors are looking for scholarships. And very smart juniors are also looking for what scholarships they'll apply for next year so that they can do the research now and just execute. But that's somebody who's really on the ball.
Nancy, what is it that's causing so much student debt these days?
Well, there are a lot of reasons for student debt, but I think the thing that really hasn't penetrated is right now, 60% of students take longer than 4 years to graduate from college, and many take 6 years. And the problem is that you're borrowing 6 years worth of money for housing and room and board and whatever, for something that you could get done in 4 years and pay a lot less for. And after 4 years, there are no more government loans, and you have to borrow private loans. So one of the things that I'd love your listeners to understand is they need to make it clear to their students that graduating in 4 years is really an important thing to do.
Well, I want to thank you so much for doing the work. As a former high school teacher, I know how important it was for my students to get information and find information. And I talked to parents who were frantic about, helping their student decide on colleges to apply to, and all that is on your website. So it's just great information. And I thank you so much for doing it. Thank you for coming on LMC and sharing the information with us.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.